I've always wanted to be a cult leader. It's on my list of things I've always wanted to be. Horror host, comedian, magician, filmmaker. Like, there's this list of a televangelist. That's pretty close. This is JARHUMOR speaking. And I want to talk to you about being a cult leader. Because it's a fascinating thing to me. And on an unrelated note, or related, it's probably related, but I don't want to draw direct connections. I don't want too much like, the dots are connected, but the line's not a straight line. It's squiggly. It's weird. It's going in different directions. I just watched a film called 20,000 Days on Earth. It's about Nick Cave from The Bad Seeds, the musician, and it's so good. I love that it's not a documentary. It's like written out and planned, like all the shots are planned, but it kind of has interview stuff, and it's about art, it's about music. I love movies that are about art. So watching this kind of lit a little fire underneath my ass, and I started remembering about this guy who was a monologuist. Well, okay. Now I'm remembering where the dots are connecting. This made me think of the movie True Stories, which is David Byrne from the Talking Heads made a movie that is scripted out, that is an incredibly stylized, weird movie about people in Texas, and it has a lot of music in it. This is not as stylized, it's more straightforward, but it's still not a documentary. But it's just about Nick Cave talking about kind of getting older and looking back, and like, that's the whole premise. He's been on Earth for like 20,000 days, and he's, looking back and what it is to be a musician. So all of this connects to being a cult leader, by the way, because I feel entertainers are basically cult leaders. What is a cult? A cult is especially a cult leader, not just a cult, but a cult leader is someone charismatic enough that when they speak and when they perform, when they draw you in, you escape from reality for a moment. You are transported to another world, an elevated world. A world of possibilities of magic. The spaceship is coming. The spaceship is coming, and it's going to rescue us. And we pray to Xenu. We pray to to our God, our alien God. The spaceship will come. All right. We put on our Nikes. We drink the Kool-Aid. It's exciting. They give you it gives you like a sense of purpose. It once again, it elevates you above common people. It's the strangest thing to me that so many people feel common. When you're out in the world, people feel boring. They feel common. But we have within us this thing that makes us want to elevate ourselves above common people. And that's why I think people should strive to be cult leaders. Now, what do they warn us about? They warn us about joining cults, right? But they never warn us about starting one. I'd say as long as you're not doing anything illegal with the cult, have at it, all right? Once you get into the whole sex trafficking, which, I don't know, weird sex is really part of the whole cult aspect. I mean, that's why I would want to be a cult leader. So I'm a little conflicted about that. A guy I work with. So here's my standard rap. I'm an artist. I'm a cartoonist. The robots took my job, so I have to work at a grocery store. So now I work at a grocery store. So one of the guys I work with at the grocery store is talking about the recent thing that's going on with the musicians being caught sex trafficking. He's like, I can't believe this guy, this P Diddy guy. He's had all this money. He needed more. He had to have a side business. And I said to him, I don't think it was really like a side business. It was, you know what I mean? It's not like a lemonade stand of sex trafficking. It's more along the lines of like a Costco. He was purchasing in bulk. You know, it's like, God, I really need to purchase It's like, yeah, you know what? If you just buy, just buy them in bulk. That's basically what I think it was. Plus, it's part of a secret society that, of course, blackmails people by weird sex and murder and cannibalism and all that stuff that I keep saying. So decades ago, or at least a decade, let's call it just a decade, people were saying, oh, these people are sex trafficking these women, and no one believed them. So now I'm saying to all y'all, celebrities also eat people. All right, they're all cannibals. So this way, 10 years from now, because it'll be another 10 years, maybe sooner. Right? Things keep moving faster and faster. We're going to find out. I said it in one of these talks a while back. Tom Hanks has definitely eaten someone. That's all I know. I have to, maybe for legal purposes, I have to say allegedly. This is an art piece. I'm a performer. I'm an artist. No reasonable jury could say that I'm a news program reporting that Tom Hanks has eaten someone. So, being a cult leader, I'm excited about being a cult leader because I figured out that I have the ability to be a cult leader. I already dress like one. I wear lots of black. I like to wear esoteric necklaces. I have 2 of them coming in the mail right now, which is, I'm just like, I have a problem. I own too many weird necklaces with weird religious symbols. I always buy sterling silver. It's cheap. It's cheap stuff. Like all of my jewelry, my dozen sterling silver, it's not sterling silver. Excuse me. Why did I say sterling silver? I keep saying that. I keep saying sterling silver, which is actually good quality. I buy the cheap stuff. I buy stainless steel. That's what I buy. I don't buy sterling silver. I buy stainless steel. I buy jewelry that's made out of the same stuff that silverware is made out of. I think that's why I get the confusion. I think silverware, I think it's made of silver. It's not. If I tried shooting a werewolf, if I melted down my necklaces and I shot a werewolf with it, nothing. Because it's stainless steel. Not gonna work. But I keep buying these necklaces because I like the way it looks. I like looking like a cult leader. And there's this story in this movie that I watched. I'm just going to call it a movie about Nick Cave, where he tells a story that when he was living in this apartment, this guy kind of came over and was hanging out. It was one of his neighbors that lived upstairs and saw all the stuff Nick Cave had on his walls. It's like, oh, this was interesting. He had a bunch of like Jesus stuff, but he also had like pinup girl type things. He called them page 3 girls, which I think that's like a British thing. Like I don't know if that translates to Americans, but so yeah, he says, hey, I got to show you something. Takes Nick Cave to his apartment. He's got this these religious nativity sort of scenes all over his apartment that he's crafted by hand, like these beautiful sort of like stars and everything that he's hand cut and everything, and there's these dramatic lights on it and everything like that. And he said, okay, watch this. He turns off the lights. He turns on these other lights that come up from the floor through like this glass tabletop. And now, instead of religious symbolism, it's all pinup girls. It's all nudie pictures and everything like that end up being displayed. And it's art. What this guy created was art. And it survives only through the story that Nick Cave is telling in this movie that I just watched, that I'm now telling to you. And I thought to myself, the first thought I had is, what a shame that guy didn't live in a time like we do now, where you can make an internet video showing off how weird you are. Your weird, eccentric art hobby can now be entertainment for people. Not in a sense of mocking, hey, look at this weirdo that spends all his time doing this thing, though that is a unique and interesting aspect of it, not in the form of mockery, but in the form of awe and curiosity. Curiosity is a better word, because awe would only mean if it was actually impressive. A lot of people, their art really isn't impressive. If you've ever seen people who have taken an art class together and they're all told to do the exact same picture, like those paintings are like the worst thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Like they're like copies of an idea. It's like, oh, it's a sunset. Like it's like the same. Each one of them were told to do the exact same thing. I'm like, I don't get that art class. I don't get that. We have to all draw the same thing. This is the thing. Oh, draw this sunset. Do it in your own sort of way. It's like, I don't know. It's bizarre. I digress, though. My point is, we all can be cult leaders. We can all put our weird, eccentric, just thoughts out into the world, which sounds like to the people that rule over us, to the Archon, as a dangerous thing. Because an entire group of people can be galvanized towards evil or something like that. What is perceived evil, of course. Like it's what is evil. Like we agree to a degree on what evil is, and we know don't do those things. But what about some nice, clean cult fun? What about just some nice, just a group of people who just are really enthusiastic about a thing all together? Isn't that what like a comic book convention is? And I'm not talking about like the big ones that are all just about marketing the latest crap Hollywood garbage, but I'm talking about the old school comic book conventions. Especially like I liked going to the horror conventions back in the day. The horror movie fans that like old bad horror movies, and it's that to me has a cult. We use the word cult films. We use the word cult. This group of people who really enjoy something coming together, and this to me is very important. Now, one of the main components of a cult is some type of faith, some type of religion. And this to me is very important. One day, I'm outside killing wasps. Wasps, not white Anglo-Saxon people, but the actual insect, had built a nest inside my car doors. White Anglo-Saxon people have their own homes. They don't have to build it inside my car doors. And I had this wasp spray, which is the most violent, insane bug spray you can imagine. It comes out at 100 miles an hour. It shoots this thick, sticky, just it's jizz-like. It is an insane thing in order to kill a wasp with chemicals like this. And it's very violent and it's horrible. And I don't like being horrible to bugs, but wasp freak me out. There's something I can't just scoop up in my little net. I have a little bug catching net. It's like one of those backyard safari, for kids that they can catch bugs. I use that to catch cute bugs that wander into my house, and I take them outside and go, oh, go along, little bug. A wasp? No, you must die. I have specific spray that is the equivalent of like bear mace. Here's the thing. I own a variety of weaponry that are just in my house. Some of them are for novelty purposes. Like, I wouldn't exactly grab my ninja sword, which is completely dull, unless I wanted to terrify an attacker coming in. I have an axe that's pretty effective. I also have other weapons that I'd rather not mention. But like the first thing I think anyone should grab is this wasp spray. This wasp spray is so intense that I guarantee you could take out an attacker with it. And now in retrospect, I remember years ago, I get this frantic phone call from my girlfriend. And she says to me, she's like, I think someone's in my apartment. And I said, all right, well, just call the police. I said, lock yourself in a room, call the police, have them come do a check. She's like, no, I'm not certain though. And I said, well, you want to go check? I said, here's my advice. You need a weapon, which I know she didn't have one. Any type of weapon. Not to mention the fact she's this tiny little 90-pound little thing that even if she had a baseball bat, it's not going to do her any good. I said, do you have any hairspray? Anything you could spray someone in the eyes with? She's like, no. And I said, no air freshener, no nothing? She's like, no. And I said, what do you have that's like a chemical? Like, do you have like nail polish remover? She's like, yeah, I have nail polish remover. I said, do you have like a little cup? She's like, what? I said, pour the nail polish remover into a cup where you could splash it in someone's eyes if you needed to as a last resort. I said, yell fire as you're running out. Don't yell help. Yell fire if you're attacked. She's like, what? I said, I don't have time to explain the psychology of why people don't come to people when they yell help. I said, hang up and call the police if you really think someone's there. She goes, I don't know. I'm not certain. Turns out there was no one there, but she was still freaked out. She claims the door was open. She claims someone opened the door, which possibly someone was coming by and just checking doors and like just opening them, seeing. And then when they heard her freaking out, just walked away. They were looking. There was probably someone looking to rob her apartment. But, they check the door. If it opens, it opens. If they don't think anyone's home, they come in, they grab whatever they can, and they get out. Second, they heard someone, which they definitely heard her freaking out. They probably just took off. Probably kids or something like that. I don't know. But she claims her door was open. She freaked out. She bought a bunch of stuff. But I'm way off track of where I was talking about killing these wasps. So one day, I'm outside killing these wasps with this wasp spray. And a couple of Mormons pull up on their bicycles. And they're kind of going door to door, wanting to pray with people and spread the word of, I don't know, what's Joseph Smith, right? That's their prophet, right? Joseph Smith. Spreading the word. And they asked, can we come inside? My mother and grandmother were alive at the time. My grandmother claims to be some type of Christian something. My mother never talked about religion. She was just not a religious person whatsoever. I said, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. They're probably watching Price is Right, something like that. Who the hell knows? I said, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. I said, nah, let's not go inside. And they're like, well, we'd like to pray with you. Would you like to pray with us? And I said, hell yeah. I probably didn't say that. But I said, why not? I said, let's pray. So we stood there next to my car where I'm killing this wasp nest. I put down the can, and me and two guys dressed like, of course, they work at the Best Buy Geek Squad type thing. Very, very professional religious people on their bicycles and their backpacks, and we pray together. One of the Mormons, elder something or other, or whatever they call themselves, he turns to me and he says, did you feel that? And I said, yes, I did. And then I try explaining to him that just because you and I have different names for God and different ways in which we think about God, the feeling is still the same. I was trying to impress that upon him because he felt the same thing I did. It was very important because that feeling is very real. The feeling you get when you pray. Now, if you're an atheist, you're just going to chop it up to psychology, it's psychological thing, whatever. I don't care what it is. It's real. And if you can put a voodoo name on it, if you can give it power, and that motivates you, and that power is like a fuel that propels you forward, give it a name. Give it a name. Worship whatever you want. It doesn't matter the name of that thing. That's what religious people don't get. Religious people believe that their God is the real God. All right? Don't worship false idols. Right? It's in their religion. It's like, oh, these other fake gods are going to come along and they're going to... No. It's all one God. It's monotheistic, but you can call this God whatever you want. You can call it Hashem, Allah, Ra, you can call it whatever you want. and it's fine. It's that power, it's that feeling. And I tried convincing this Mormon of this, but I feel like it fell on deaf ears. I don't feel like this Mormon heard me. Of course he didn't. Religious people take their ideology so damn seriously. I'm a little concerned because I am an ordained minister, and though since I also am an artist who does comedy, when I dress like a preacher and I do something stupid on the internet, I am not afraid's not the word, concerned that religious people will look at that and think I'm mocking their religion. I'm not mocking, I'm emphasizing an idea. It's a caricature of a preacher character that I've always wanted to do, that I actually used to do on stage. I used to do a preacher character when I was a stand-up comedian. And I love that. It's on my list. It's on my list of things I wanted to do with my life, is be a televangelist. So I'm on the internet, and I'm on this popular video site, because I'm looking up Spalding Gray. I don't know if you guys know who Spalding Gray is, but that's the whole point of what I was talking about, True Stories, with David Byrne, the Talking Heads movie. That got me to think about Spalding Gray. Spalding Gray was a humorist, a monologuist. He actually made a living not really being a stand-up comic, but if you think about like how Kevin Smith, before podcasting, okay, after making a couple movies, and Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, who made Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy and Dogma, etc., I believe to be a fantastic writer, but not a great filmmaker. Clerks, one of his best films, is only good because of its limitations. We immediately saw what happened to Kevin Smith when he was given a budget and he made Mallrats. Not as good of a film, but the dialogue is still very interesting. Then Kevin Smith all of a sudden figured out that he could just stand up on stage and tell stories. Now, prior to Kevin Smith figuring this out, and I think John Waters figured this out as well, he had a one-man show where he just told stories. There was a guy named Spalding Gray. Spalding Gray would tell monologues. They were serious, but they had a lot of humor in them. He was very funny, but one of the first things I ever heard about was him talking about how his mother took her own life. I can't use that word. I forget, the robots are listening, and I can't use that word because we can't talk about a thing, even if it's a problem. Especially don't talk about the things that are problems on the internet. That's forbidden. Don't talk about things that are problems. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. So I'm looking up Spalding Gray. I'm looking up his movie Monster in a Box. And then I found this other one. It's called Terrors of Paradise. And then there was another one that I can't remember what it is. But then it started recommending all these preachers to me, which is interesting because I guess the algorithm on this site is like, oh, if you like spoken word stuff, you know who else talks a lot? Preachers. So it's recommending all these preachers to me. And there's one fella, he's in his priest costume. What's funny is I look more like a priest than actual priests, which is interesting. My priest costume, uniform, outfit, it's completely authentic. My priest collar shirt came from the Universal Life Church, that's who ordained me. I didn't buy it from their website. I found it at a thrift store. And it was a 3X, and it was so large on me that I ended up cutting the sleeves off of it, and cutting a strip down the back of it, and cutting the back, and adding Velcro, and turning it into a dickie. So I have a priest dickie, which is just a funny thing to say. And I wonder if the robots are like, I think he's talking about something he shouldn't be. It's like, no, robot, I'm talking about an article of clothing. So my concern is that if my videos grow in popularity, what religious people will think about my performance as a preacher. Even though I'm not saying anything against God. I certainly have my qualms with organized religion, but not with people of faith. People of faith are amazing. Sometimes horribly misguided, some just very rigid in their ideologies. I remember flirting with this one girl who I found out was a Jesus freak, and it was fine at first because I could quote the Bible just as well as she could. She thought that was amazing. She's like, "Oh, he's a man of faith." And then I started talking about Kabbalah, and I started talking about meditation, and she looked at me when I said something about meditation. She goes, "I meditate on the Word," and I'm like, "Okay." I think she's a Baptist. She's Southern Black Baptist. She's, I'm not going to change her mind. I'm not going to get her to. I'm not going to get her to read any of the stuff that I've read. she's set in her ways, and so there's another gentleman that I work with. He works at a grocery store like me, but he's an actual pastor. He's an actual preacher, and he cannot stand that people call me Reverend. And I said, don't call me Reverend in front of brother so-and-so. I call him brother and then his first name. I won't mention his name. Now, let's pretend his name is Bob. I said, don't, which is just a horrible name, like Brother Bob. It doesn't sound right, except for the alliteration's kind of good. Oh, it's 11:11 according to my living room clock, by the way. That's another thing that this girl said to me was about angel numbers. She said they're of the devil. I said, what do you mean angel numbers are of the devil? It's got the word angel right in the title. I said, I see angel numbers all the time. And you know what? She stopped talking to me. She now actively avoids me. Ever since she found out I see them demon numbers. She's like, oh, Lord, this boy is in cahoots with the devil. And in the words of Sammy Davis Jr., as told by Eddie Murphy and Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, Sammy Davis Jr., Eddie Murphy heard Sammy Davis Jr. say one time, hey man, Satan's just as powerful as God. I think that's fascinating. Sammy Davis Jr. was a Satanist. A lot of people in Hollywood. Everyone thinks that that's just some new conspiracy theory, but it's not. They're Luciferians or Satanists or something like that, and the sex trafficking is real. And once again, we're going to find out the cannibalism is real too. No one's caught up yet to me. I tell you, we're going to find out that they're eating people. They're not just having weird sex with them. All right, they're also eating them. So there you go. Yeah. So once again, I don't want to start that kind of cult. But when I look at a musician like Nick Cave, or I think about comedians, especially like Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy came out on stage dressed in like a red leather outfit because all comedians want to be rock stars, right? So rock stars, comedians, we all have this weird sickness in us that we want to be cult leaders. We want to have a group of people following us. That's where social media comes in. Social media people have followers. You have followers. Become one of my followers. We all have the potential to become little cult leaders. Well, what are we going to do with that responsibility? That's the curious thing to me. What are we going to do with that responsibility? Probably something mediocre. Every once in a while we may say something profound that changes people or gets them to think in a different way. But for the most part, it's just going to be entertainment. As Jim Carrey said, give them freedom from concern, which is something I've always liked. But then that phrase recently has started to rub me the wrong way. Maybe people need to be concerned about things. Maybe we need a little more concern and a little more care. I know the way he was using the phrase concern means worry. People don't need to worry about things because worry is a very negative form of concern. But care. People need to care about things. I find myself living in a world of people who really don't care as much as they could. And that's what I want to start. I want to start the cult of people caring about art and music and film. I love movies, though the people that make them nowadays are horrible. But there have been auteurs. There have been people who have made films outside of the Hollywood system. You think about the George Romero zombie films and things like that, and the cultural satire of that, etc., etc. Just as one example. That's what I want to do with my art. I want to also make sure it's funny. I never want to take myself too seriously. That's for damn sure. So there you go. I want to thank you guys so much for listening. You can find me anywhere on social media. Become a follower. Follow me, my children. On the social media at JARHUMOR. Anywhere on the internets. Also, JARHUMOR.com, a website if people still use websites. I got one. I got a website, JARHUMOR.com. And you know why the guy that I work with is so jealous of my reverendship? It's because he doesn't make any money, because he still has to work at a grocery store. If he was a real hustler, he'd be out there making that TD Jakes money. And that's what I want to do. Folks, go to JARHUMOR.com, get you a t-shirt, perhaps buy a copy of my book, Awful Movies from Earth, available on Amazon. Oh, my friends, thank you so much. This is Jar Humor, signing off.